When you're just getting started with weightlifting, it can be difficult to know if you should cut or bulk first. There honestly isn't a universally right or wrong answer because it all depends on your own personal starting position. So today I'm going to break down exactly what you should do based on your own body type and goals.
Hey, this is Colin DeWay. If you want to build muscle, burn fat, and all things that relate, then make sure you subscribe today and click on that bell notification so you don't miss anything. Alright, so the number one factor that determines whether you should cut or bulk first as a beginner, in my opinion, is how much fat you have to lose. An important thing to remember is, as a beginner, you're in a position that those of us who have been lifting a while are not, in that you can build muscle and burn fat simultaneously. The more experience you have, the more difficult this becomes. So this is where your options depend so much on how much body fat you currently carry. So if you're someone who is carrying a lot of body fat, then in my opinion, you're better off starting with a cut. And this is because it's just not healthy to have a lot of extra fat. So there'll be a lot of benefits just getting some fat off your heart, off your joints and things like that, and just overall improving your health markers. And since you'll be able to lose fat and build muscle simultaneously, why not get the best of both worlds? And really, just don't make the mistake a lot of people make and say, well, I'm just gonna get the weight off first and then build muscle. That's completely backwards. Building muscle will actually help you lose fat, and it'll make the process easier because your body will be burning more calories at rest just having that extra muscle and just being you. One thing to keep in mind here, however, is that if you're building muscle and losing fat at the same time, scale weight can be a little bit tricky. Because while it's great to build muscle, it does have mass, it has weight, so it's not free. You gotta remember that weight is not just fat, it's everything. So it's really important to make sure that you're taking progress pictures and taking measurements and paying attention to how your clothes are fitting and things like that, because these are all signs of progress and you don't want to rely only on the scale. And while I know you may not want to take pictures right now because you're a little bit embarrassed of where things are, trust me when I tell you that you will regret not doing it, and they are very helpful and very powerful. I started lifting 11 years ago, and I basically have 2 times in my life where I would consider that I had befores, and I didn't take pictures for either one of them because I was embarrassed of the way things were. And I'm telling you, there's barely a day that goes by where I don't regret not having those starting photos. What you have to understand is what you're embarrassed about now is what you will be proud of in the future. And that's beyond the fact that they're super helpful for comparison purposes, because trust me, there are going to be times where it feels like it's not working, that you're not seeing any results, that it's not worth the effort anymore. But when you can look back and compare and see, holy crap, I am changing, things have happened, that can be extremely helpful. Anyway, just keep in mind, especially as a beginner, you can see big changes in body composition without big changes in scale weight. And that goes double for the next category I want to talk about, which is if you start from more of a skinny fat position. If this is you, I recommend one of 2 different options. The first being starting with a bulk, because let's be honest, if you're skinny fat, there's a decent chance you probably don't have the best muscle building genetics. This way, since you don't have a lot of extra fat anyway, you can more optimally build muscle, because even if you can build and cut simultaneously, it's not going to be as effective as if you're trying to build in a calorie surplus. And then when you do cut down the road, not only will you be in a better position in terms of having more muscle to display when you go through it, but you'll also be in a better position metabolically from being in a calorie surplus for so long that you'll be in a really good place to see great results during the cut. The other option, if you're in a skinny fat position, would be to kind of go for staying roughly the same around maintenance, but going for a body recomposition. Which, if you don't know, body recomposition basically means that your weight stays relatively the same, but you look much better. With the newbie gains you can get as a beginner, this could be a good opportunity to be a little bit more balanced and allow some nice changes to happen without putting on extra body fat. In fact, this is basically what happened to me 11 years ago when I started training consistently. No, I didn't do this intentionally because I honestly had no clue what I was doing back then, but I just read, make sure you train hard and eat a lot of protein, so that's what I did. And over time, I just kind of naturally stayed right around 180 pounds, but my body looked drastically different. And again, I hate that I don't have a before picture because this is the closest one I have, and I'm probably about 15 pounds lighter here. And the next pic is about 1.5 years after I started training without doing any cutting or bulking. Now, the last scenario would be if you're someone who's just generally really skinny, very ectomorphic, and having a hard time putting on weight, then it just makes sense, and this is the most obvious of the scenarios, to go into a bulk right away. You already have a hard time putting on weight, it's going to be challenging for you to build muscle. Not to mention, since you're relatively lean anyway, just kind of naturally, as you build some muscle, there's a really good chance that you're going to stay fairly lean and see some nice changes in body comp. Now, one thing you may be wondering is how fast you should be gaining weight if you're bulking. And to get the answer to that question, make sure you check out this video where I talk about how to use something called a reverse diet to lean bulk to make sure that you're building muscle without extra body fat you don't need. Just keep in mind, it's a little bit different for a beginner, but it's still a good rough starting point. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.